Hi there everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're working on something kind of cool. This is part 2 of our stealthy Space Marine Primaris Infiltrators. And what we've done is we've gone a little bit with a kind of a nice central kind of column of color here, but the rest of the armor has been in this kind of sensor ablative coating. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add some of the final details. This video is going to be about working on the control panels, the Nakarthum. We've got some smoke we've got to do up in here. We'll be applying the decals on the side just for a little bit of iconography there, and we'll also be working on the purity seals. So I'll take this stuff, get it all cleared away. We'll grab some water and we'll start working on our colors. Now the first thing we're going to work on is the smoke that we see coming out of the smoke grenade here. If we're doing stuff coming out of a sensor or kind of a smoldering magic or something like that, this is a great kind of technique just for doing that smoke in particular. So we're going to start with a coating of ULTHUAN gray, and we're just going to go over top of what you see already there. So now, even if you've primed it white, what I like to do, you see there's a bristle going awry there, what I like to do is just make sure that we get that brightness in, because the contrast relies so heavily on having that be very clean. Once that's all dry, what we're going to do now is use the contrast BASILICANUM gray. And this is a great shading color. It's so hard to shade white. I've got a wash that I've used in the other videos and stuff, but it is so hard to kind of just shade that white. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of the BASILICANUM gray. I'm going to tap in just a little bit of water on my palette here, and then I'm going to turn my dude upside down here, and then I'm just going to wash over top with that gray contrast. And you want to make sure you're not getting pooling, but you kind of want pooling. Now I'm going to continue to hold this upside down just so that it kind of shades the way that I want it. The shade is going to rest on top of the kind of the little bubbles, if you will, in the little bumps here in the smoke, and then it's going to show that it's shaded underneath. So I'm just going to hold it upside down just for a few minutes while it dries. With that contrast dry, I'm going to take some ULTHUAN gray again, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to do, it's not a dry brush, it's an overed brush. So basically you get a little bit of wet paint on your brush, okay, and then you smooth it out on your palette here just to get, kind of a lot of the paint off. All right, so we're not dry brushing, but we're doing kind of a similar kind of idea, and all we're going to do is pick out the major highlights. Now because it's wet, it's going to be somewhat translucent, okay, and we're just going to pick out the major kind of sticky outy, very technical term, spots, and just kind of go over top, much as we would like a dry brush, just trying to highlight this and pop it up a bit. But we'll do it with wet paint so that it's a little bit, or sorry, thin down paint, so it's a little bit kind of translucent. So I'm really liking that smoke effect. I'm not sure if it's getting picked up on camera, but it's a nice subtle kind of gradation from the kind of the lower, deeper parts of the smoke out billowing where it's catching the light a little bit. You can always go back in there and change it with a bit of that watered down BASILICANUM gray and just kind of tuck it into the little recesses and corners, and that'll give you a little bit more definition if you want something a bit chunky. But I wanted something that stood out against the model. Instead of like a grayer smoke, I wanted a whiter smoke for sure. Alright, I'm taking him out of frame. The next thing we're going to work on is our control panels here for our little kind of displays and little keyboards on their little personal computers and on the Nakarthum here. Now, even though this one is white, I'm still going to stick with using our ULTHUAN gray as kind of a prep here. And all I'm going to do now is go after the different parts that are going to be lit up. And we're going to use this as a base for another contrast paint. Now we're only going after the items that are, in quotes, lit up, and we're going to kind of tone that down with the contrast paint. But anything that you want bright, I'm just going to go in here with the ULTHUAN gray and just kind of gently touch it up with a bit of an overbrush, just to make sure that it will show. Whenever you want to do something like super bright, it's nice to back it with a very light color. Now, if I get a little bit splashy in terms of my painting here, that's going to be okay, because that'll just end up being a bit of a like an overglow, like an OSL type thing. And then just to make sure we got everything here, I'm also going to make sure that these are all done up. And on the Nicarthum, these little vials that are on top here, I just want to make sure that we get that as well. For our little display monitors and our keyboards, anything that kind of glows, and we'll actually use one of the vials in here as well. I'm going to use the Technical Tesseract Glow. This of course came with the Necron release for the glowy bits of the Necrons, but I really like this paint. Now make sure that when you are mixing it up, there's this one settled out fairly seriously, so I had to take a paper clip in there and just kind of stir it up. Don't spill your pot of paint. And I just want to make sure I had all that color and just kind of the right balance. Otherwise it can look a little faded or dull. So what I'm going to do now is I'll take my Tesseract Glow and I'm going to do two things. I'm going to apply it to the monitor, right? And if you go over a little bit, that's okay. It's kind of meant for that. And I'll do it to one of the vials right here. All right, so I'll let that settle. You can see the dark is already starting to come out right away. I'll grab more of this here. Now, you don't thin this stuff out. You kind of want to let it just kind of sit and accumulate over time. This is great for lenses in the helmets too. All right, I'll let that just kind of sit and dry for a bit, and then we'll come back and see. You can see that Tesseract Glow has dried, and it's offered loads of detail in here, and it's bright. I mean, it's like crazy bright. This is like Necron Glow bright. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do two things to kind of knock it down a little bit. I'd like a little definition. You can see the buttons and the gears and all the other stuff. But what I'd like to do is just take a wash, and this is a wash I use for the rest of the models here. It's a custom wash I have. It's 25% NULN oil, 25% AGRAX EARTHSHADE, and 50% garden variety, whatever you can buy, floor wax. And what it does, or floor polish. And what it does is it really makes things flow really, really well, which is great for the models themselves. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I'm kind of watered down a little bit here, just by virtue of wanting to make sure that I don't get too. I'm just going to add a little bit of water in here, just so it's. See, I don't know if you guys can see that. Let's look at the camera. Yeah, it's. I want just a little bit of shade in there, and then I'm going to go over the buttons on our interface here, just to add a little bit of pop. And you can see specifically, it'll bring out the keys and all of that. It gives us a little bit more of a muted look, and I really like that. There we go. So now we can still see we've got a little bit of that glow effect. However, we're not losing the detail of those buttons there. Awesome. Now, while I'm waiting for that wash to dry, and it shouldn't take too long, but while I'm waiting for that wash to dry, I'm going to take some Flesh Terror's Red Contrast, and I'm just going to do that other vial that's on the Helix adept there. This is probably, without a doubt, one of my favorite contrast colors. I think it really does a great job of exactly what you want it to do, where it's nice and dark and deep, but you still don't lose kind of all that highlight in there. It's really, really nice. And then finally, we're going to use Warpstone Glow, and all we're going to do with this is just knock those screens down a little bit. I'll put another video recommendation up in the corner, and that one is going to be for kind of that subtractive edge highlighting. Now what I'm going to do with this is, you can see that we got the screen here, we got this nice gradation. So I'm just going to paint inside that screen a little bit, just making sure that I leave the outer lines, and that is way easier to paint than trying to kind of actually do that edge highlight on there. And then I'll do the same with the screen up here as well. So I still get the glow of that readout. However, I'm not drowning in brightness there. You can see that just knocks it down just enough that it looks like a little screen. And then finally, I'll do that bottom half, just like there's a little bit of fluid sitting in the bottom of this green vial. I'll do the bottom half of that vial, just like that. On that red vial, I'm going to use Wild Rider Red, and I'm just going to put like a little gem dot just kind of up at the top here. Just like that. Now with our specialty guys kind of done up in the background here, what we're going to do lastly from kind of a painting non-decal kind of perspective is the purity seals. Now the purity seals are super simple. I'm going to use a Micron 005 pen here. They're super fine detailed points. And trying to blackline these with paint never really seems to work for me. So all I'm going to do now is just write on the scrolls, and it's just squiggly lines for sure. But it sounds really dumb, but I'm actually doing a little bit of separations just as if I was writing little words. So there you have it, guys. These guys are finished. They look fantastic on the table, which I think is really, really neat. Getting them all kind of based up and then the decals on and everything really ties together that theme of, you know, these stealthy guys kind of sneaking through, the woods, or, kind of, hiding in the desert under kind of this cloak of invisibility as far as sensors go. I like that it takes away from the, big powered armor guys stomping around and calling them like super stealthy without giving them a real reason to be that way. So it really ties in with the jammers on the backpacks and all that. The screens turned out really, really nicely. They look like they're glowing, but it's that nice kind of muted glow, again, kind of opening them up in the middle of a battle, trying to coordinate and see when the time is to go. So that's it for this one, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it was of value to you. This was a ton of fun to paint. These guys are going to definitely be in my forces from here on out. It's really cool, man. I love these guys. I think the kind of the knightly shapes of them and everything is great. And I hope you enjoyed it. This has been great to put together. So if you liked the video and you think I've earned it, throw a like down there. It really helps me abuse the YouTube algorithms there for sure. So make sure that you get a like in there. And if you want notifications of all of our future videos, consider subscribing. We're going to be doing some streaming once this global wobble's under control here. And we're really looking forward to doing that. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. We'll catch you in the next video.